Welcome everyone to today's webinar. The title From Rags to Cloud, and we've been thinking about it, how to title it, and it totally makes sense because if you're hosting your Sitefinity in-house, maybe you are considering migrating to the cloud, whether through us or through another partners. You don't know where to start, you don't know how to build a business case because there will be a bunch of internal stakeholders that you need to talk to and align with. On the agenda today, how to build a business case, because there's definitely quite a few interesting things going on at the moment. How to evaluate your options, meaning whether you should consider rehosting or refactoring or lifting and shifting. You have plenty of options. And we'll cover some of the hard parts about content, what is happening with customization, how to address a specific business challenge when it comes to extending your CMS. We'll briefly touch on integrations, data, SEO, governance, as well as Pavel will walk us through his game plans about practical migration steps, how to get into the action, how to start migrating from maybe outdated technology that your existing website is running on to the more modern platform capabilities that the latest Sitefinity versions offer. And we'll briefly touch on 3 use cases, and this will be more like a quiz or like a trivia or maybe a challenge for Pavel to answer a couple of questions about specifics in migrations or customizing your experience. And yeah, that's the agenda. I'm not sure whether we'll have enough time to cover everything because the topic is really vast, and you can, once you get into the weeds of any of those topics, chances are that it can get quite deep, but we'll give it a try. Again, this is a live webinar. Ask your questions in the panel. We have a bunch of team members available to answer your questions, and we can follow up offline if we need to. But something very important, and this is why certain things no longer work. And it's perfectly okay to have a website. It's perfectly okay, to have the experience you've designed. But what I've seen is, as a marketer, as a user, is that some things no longer work for me. As someone who is on the internet, like not necessarily 24/7, but more like 16/8, as if I'm doing intermittent fasting. And the reason is I'm seeing gaps from both sides of the fence, from being a marketer as well as being a user, is that most strategies when it comes to digital experiences still assume that the homepage is the front door to the experience. We think that, hey, let's get some visitors in and we'll figure out how to present some content. But the fact is that over the past 2 years, especially with the introduction of ChatGPT, now Copilot, you have Perplexity, you have some other tools, and even the way that search engine results are changing, and we'll cover this in a bit later, the journey actually starts far, far away from your website, meaning that your prospects, your customers, and many of your existing users are actually having conversations about your brands, about your products, and about your services far away from your website. They are doing their research on Reddit, on social media, on YouTube, on ChatGPT, on Perplexity. And the problem is that this space is getting fairly noisy. Yes, it does provide instant answers, but you need to compete with many other brands and organizations that are already there. So if you only optimize your experience or your website, you miss basically where the customers are actually beginning the journey, getting to know your brand, product or service, and even compare again your offerings to competition. And so this is basically the end of site-centric thinking. And one of the reasons why we are starting this, because upgrading or rethinking your technology stack or integrating your CMS with other systems or pushing or packaging your content to be in a shape or form that is readable and digestible by say AI is a great way to prepare for a future where we are moving away from websites and going into more like conversations. And I can give you multiple examples. The next step is basically the understanding that static site pages are kind of going away, in the sense of not the way they are built, but the way they work. Again, instant answers are available to almost any question that you may ask ChatGPT, but it's not the same thing when it comes to looking at the content that you're presenting to your visitors, even if you get visitors from TikTok, from YouTube, from any advertising channels or marketing channel that you're using. And this is becoming a problem because there's so much information overload. There's so many pages, there's so many content that a typical user will need to go through all those cascading menus, need to click many times in order to find the information they're looking for. And I was thinking of an example when I thought about cancellation policy of airline. And I realized that it took me some time to find this cancellation policy, and it was so long that I didn't have enough time to read it, given that I'm also working on a bunch of other things. I need to plan to make vacation arrangements. So I did copy and paste the entire policy into my favorite AI tool and said, well, summarize it for me. But what if this experience was actually built into the website itself, where you are building trust and you're personalizing the experience for your customers, meaning giving them the opportunity to easily find the information they're looking for, getting real-time updates. So you're not offering them static one-way communication channels and one-way information, because they're getting used to getting those answers. And if they are presented with content that is relevant, but it's not represented in the shape, form, or the way they're expected, chances are that this will result in kind of low engagement rates and potentially some frustrations. And there's definitely quite a few reports out there that speak about the growing frustrations, the growing level of frustration when it comes to web visits. And the last bit is what is causing it. And I think that one of the reasons why we're still stuck with site-centric thinking and building static pages is the fact that we are stuck in rigid workflows, not necessarily in the way how we manage the content itself, but how we plan our campaigns, upgrade cycles, whether we are agile enough to really adopt new technology when we see new opportunities, and to really improve, innovate, and to basically pick up the pace. So rigid workflows mean again that content is sitting in your CMS waiting for approval. You're waiting on UX, you're waiting on design, you're waiting on front end, and then there's a bunch of new capabilities that you want to launch, but they're stuck in development. And because you don't have, for example, CI and CD, you just need to wait and wait and wait. I personally don't mind waiting, but I don't have the luxury. And this is because, number one, there's more channels that we need to cover, more content we need to deliver, more teams that we need to align. And we simply don't have the luxury to wait for 1 month for something to happen. We need it now because someone else is also pressuring us, in a good way, obviously, to deliver results. So static site-centric thinking, static pages, and rigid workflows is something that every organization that wants to go and get prepared for the new way DX is deployed and run, and the new way customers are interacting with brands, need to rethink. And one of the biggest challenges is obviously where to start. Any change within the organization, whether you're just upgrading the website, changing the UX, optimizing the content, will rely on multiple teams and will impact multiple different teams. So the decision where to start is not necessarily an easy task, and you need to align with multiple internal teams and to have an open conversation. Do you struggle with, for example, keeping your website up and running under load? Or maybe releases are kind of slow, or maybe you don't have enough personalization to boost engagement and conversion, or maybe there's some gaps into the content management workflows where you're not moving at the pace you want, or rely on manual processes. Think about repurposing a white paper for a webinar, for a shorts for YouTube, TikTok ad, LinkedIn post, social, and then a series of FAQs that are designed to fit into LLMs. So it's getting so complex that you need to figure out where to start. And for me, I think the easiest way to start and to open the, the gate to opportunities is by upgrading the CMS. And there's a reason why, because number one, it gives you an opportunity to look at your existing performance, optimize certain things that, like a tidying your wardrobe, check whether this t-shirt still fits or maybe you enjoy wearing it, and then just tidy up a bit, but also unlocks a number of new opportunities and new capabilities that may not be available at the moment. Don't get me wrong, Sitefinity is a fantastic CMS. I love working at it, and I've been thinking, do I need to upgrade from, say, Sitefinity 9 to Sitefinity 15? And again, if I have the luxury to work all the time, I don't mind staying on older version. But at the pace that we need to work and the challenges that we are facing and the pressure from competition and the needs from our customers and prospects, I think that Sitefinity 9, 10, 11, 12, even 13, with the kind of dating technology, is not enough to give me the tools that I need to move forward. So here's why we switch to a more practical stuff. And Pavel will jump in, he'll grab the screen, and he'll walk me through what my options are when it comes to upgrading or migrating based on my existing technology stack. So Pavel, I'm on version 13.3. What are my options? Where should I go? What should I do in order to get to modernize our DX, my DX, to improve the content workflows and essentially prepare my content and do a bit of automation so I can save time and be more efficient and be more successful as a marketer? Please help me.
Right.
I need your help
Yeah.
today.
So, all right, as you can see on the screen here, right, there are several upgrade paths that we need to configure. And you can see kind of from the top with the red down to the bottom with the green, there's various levels of complexity. There's various levels of immediacy for the upgrade as well, right? If you are working on a version that's lower than 13.3, for example, these are no longer supported. Even if you're not thinking about migrating to the cloud, modernizing the front end and your technology that you're using in general, you maybe should consider just bumping it up to a supported version, right? 13.3 is the least that we can get to. It's still a long-term supported version until uh, the spring of next year, until April 2026, as you can see here. But we also have other easier migration paths, right? As Alex mentioned, if you're on versions above 14, so for 14.3, 14.4 as a long-term supported version, right, you can also migrate to either one of the newer versions, or we can migrate you to the cloud using your current Sitefinity version as well. Now, in terms of the paths themselves, right, for each path there's different things to consider. Again, version 13.3 and below, there's also the security aspect to it, right? Patches, upgrades to make sure that you know are not missing out on any vulnerability fixes or anything like that, just to make sure that everything is okay. From 13.3 onwards, though, there are other considerations that we need to think about, right? If we are going to be migrating to the cloud, if we're going to be upgrading our version, right? Do we have the capacity for a redesign? Do we have the capacity to modernize and look at the decoupled front-end technologies? Um, Move over again, as Alex mentioned, do a bit of spring cleaning, audit our wardrobe, see if there's any content that needs to be repurposed or go away right away, right? Can we make this a larger effort and make sure that we know, instead of taking multiple smaller steps over time, we're just making one giant leap, and we're kind of getting into the most modern and the most capable Sitefinity versions and tools that we have to offer. So that's kind of the idea behind it. Again, one thing to mention here is that these migrations can happen gradually, right? You don't need to modernize your entire website from the get-go. You can start slowly, template by template, page by page. If you want to go to again, the coupled technology with ASP.NET Core, with Next.js as the front-end rendering technologies, you can do that at your own pace. You don't have to flip a switch and go, my entire website is on MVC. my new entire website is on .NET Core, you don't have to go through this. You can do it again, piece by piece, maybe start with a new project, smaller project, migrate the old one slowly, and so on. So this is kind of the idea, right? These are the considerations that we want to take into account.
Yeah, the
And
key takeaways is that I think that it's about understanding there's risk management, there's future readiness, there's optimized investments, and really pick whatever works for you to support it. And we'll cover those different scenarios later in this presentation in a more visual ways to really help you understand the value, the time to market, and the effort slash investment that you need to make. But yeah, evaluating your existing technology is a great start. So, Pavel, what if I'm on, say, MVC at the moment and I want to move to the new renderer, like we call it, whether it's ASP.NET Core or Next.js? Where do I begin? Where do I start?
right,
Obviously,
yeah,
I want to modernize our DX. Where do we
yeah,
begin?
and I like it that we start with the complex scenario, right? We're migrating technology, we're not just upgrading versions and so on and so forth. So
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
obviously, this will always look like a daunting task, right? It's an entire new technology. Um, I need to audit everything that I have. I don't know where to start. Again, we go back to where do we begin? But this is why we're here, right? And this is why we want to support you as best as we can in order to make that transition as smooth as possible. So there are tools that we've introduced that can help us with that. I think this is where we can jump into um, the demo section where we can take a look at those tools, right? How do we analyze and understand, okay, what pages are on MVC? Do I have pages on web forms, right? Is there something that I've forgotten or maybe something that I'm not using that's still on web forms, right? And just, have a starting point and then also see, okay, what is the effort and how can we minimize that and make this optimal for migration. So I am going to take over the screen share here, and we're going to take a look at a few of those tools that can help us with the migration process. But also, as we go along through the demos here, we also want to take a look at right what we're going forward to, right? What we're aiming for. So we are going to take a look at some of the advantages of upgrading the technology, getting on cloud, so we can see, the tangible benefits, right? The good outcomes of this entire initiative. Because again, there needs to be something at the end waiting for us to make all of this effort worth it. So again, we are going to start with a few tools. So I will share out my screen. Alex, if you can just let me know once we can see it.
Oh, we can see it. Yes, you're good to go.
Perfect. All right. So again, the first thing that we want to start with is right. My Sitefinity project is still using MVC, which again is perfectly fine, and we are going to continue supporting MVC. We can absolutely go to the cloud with an MVC project. That's not an issue. But again, we've made the decision. We're modernizing. We're decoupling. We're going to modern front-end technologies and modern front-end rendering. So we've built this page analyzer tool that can be run on your Sitefinity project, which is going to give you, the starting point. Here on the left-hand side, we'll see that we have a report for templates, a report for pages, and a report for widgets, right? And each of these reports is going to tell us, okay, how many templates do we have? How many pages? How many widgets do we have? What technology are they currently using? And is there a corresponding element, whether it's a template page or widget, that the new modern front-end renderers support that is going to help us migrate more easily. So in this example, if we take a look at my templates, right, I actually do have a few templates that I've already modernized, right? I have 6 on ASP.NET Core. I have 1 on Next.js as I was exploring that as a potential migration option. But I still have 14 of my templates on MVC, right? So the bulk of my website here uh, is on MVC. And if we take a look at the report, we actually get the list of all of those templates. We get the framework that the templates use. And we also get how many pages are using, right? So in this case, this is my main corporate template. 26 of my pages are using it. If I were migrating, right, this might be my first priority because it's going to have the highest impact uh, when it comes to the migration. Now, this report can also be run across all of your websites, right? If you're using Sitefinity in a multi-site instance, if you are using the multilingual capabilities, we can also see, okay, maybe the French version of my site is much smaller, and we can see I actually don't have one here. But the idea is we can plan this, right? Do we start side by side? Do we start language by language? Are there regions that are priorities? This report can help us estimate the effort and understand what we need to do and plan this as best as we can. Another thing that the report is going to show us in the case of widgets here is, are there any existing components in the modern rendering technology that we're migrating to that can save us some time of redeveloping everything, right? So we have these different grids from MVC that some of you might be familiar with, right? The different column layouts for the grids and so on and so forth, right? All of those elements are supported by a single element in our modern front-end technology, right? Something like a dedicated news widget that we have here, again, supported by a single component that can handle my news items, my blog posts, my events, everything that's in a list format, I can just migrate into this single component and then just switch around how the items are displayed, which is much faster and much easier. And we are going to see a practical example of that as we go along. And the final thing that we do want to mention is we do have a migration tool as well, right? So if I'm starting with a specific template or if I'm starting with a specific page, I don't need to recreate this page from scratch. I don't need to go in and figure out how to create a new template and what components were on the old template and what components are on the new template and compare them side by side and so on and so forth. There is a command here for your command line interface for those who are more technically adept here. You can grab this command, you can execute it in your project, and this is going to migrate the template, replacing all of the components with components that are available in the new technology. So uh, for this example, we are going to switch over to a quick video, and I'll just run it in a second here. But this is basically what the flow would be, right? I'm migrating a specific news page. I grab the command, I paste it into my command line, and then the tool, does its magic, right? It's going to run a lot of evaluations. It's going to map existing widgets to uh, new ones, and it's also going to tell us, right, if there's a widget that couldn't be migrated as well. So we are going to see, right, okay, all of this worked, but this didn't, right? Let's focus our actual time, our actual effort on this specific widget so we can, maybe recreate it, adapt it a little bit so that it matches one of the existing ones and so on and so forth. And we are going to get back to this in a second here with another video, but we do also give you the tools to develop widgets on our modern front-end technologies as well, something called an MCP server, Model Context Protocol. We'll get to that in a second. For now, I just want to show you a very quick example of what a migrated page can look like. And again, this example is simple for the sake of it, but here we're going to take a look at an old page that we have in our MVC architecture. So again, awful navigation, test block here, just a news list with titles and summaries and whatnot. But I've already migrated this page to my new front-end technology, right? So in this case, I am using the ASP.NET Core renderer, right? The front-end project with the more modernized look and feel and the more modernized editing experience. And if we take a look at the migrated page, right, this still looks kind of plain. But now that I'm using the new editor, the new WYSIWYG experience here, I can just go in and quickly change this, right, from a list with summary template to a cards list, which is something that is available as a part of the ASP.NET Core frontend renderer and as a part of the Next.js renderer as well, right? So here we're already getting, okay, this is a little bit better looking, but now I can also make use of things like some of the section preset capabilities where my team, design team, marketing team, colleagues, right, they've already gone and started work on this project and they've created a few presets that I can actually use. So this idea of content reusability allows us to create little bits and pieces, as we see here, of predefined content, share it with our team, and then they can use it and they can start making changes, right? I'm looking for a header for my news page. I can go ahead and add this one, right? From here on out, I can change this to, instead of saying page header, right, saying news in my scenario. And what I can also do, whoops, as well is if I don't like this image, I can modify it, go into the Sitefinity libraries, and just grab a different one, right? So maybe I just want something a little bit different here with more food and fresh produce and whatnot, right? So this is a very quick example of how we can continuously improve the page now that it's been migrated uh, with the new capabilities that we have. And something to mention as well now is that with the modern front-end technologies, right, we are transitioning to a true what you see is what you get type of editing experience versus the previous more drag and drop oriented editing experience of MVC, where this is exactly what my page will look like after I publish it as well. All right, so we've covered off the simple example, right? All of these elements with my navigation, with my news widget, with the predefined templates, right? They already exist. But what if I needed to redevelop a widget, right? I've developed my own custom calendar widget for events, or I don't have the card widget that we saw just now, right? But I do need a card widget when I'm migrating uh, from MVC to ASP.NET Core. And this is where we are going to switch to another video. Full disclaimer, this is quite sped up, which is why we're going to show a recording of this rather than the real deal. But we've introduced this model context protocol tool for developers, which allows them to interact with Copilot, Claude, whatever model they want to use, give it prompts to create widgets. And now this model context protocol knows how Sitefinity widgets are developed in Next.js and in ASP.NET Core. It's going to go through this entire process of creating a widget on its own, right? As we can see on the video here, I'm just going in, testing the card widget. I saw that there's an error with the links that I want to generate for the cards. I asked it to update this. And again, we can see this work in action, right? Where I've developed a card widget from scratch by just prompting Copilot in Visual Studio Code at the moment and giving it additional feedback every time I notice something that's wrong. I need to add functionality or something is missing. Uh, and slowly, right, this card widget gets fully built out. And we can see this in the end here, where I now have my card widget with an actual different display template that we're going to see in a second, which was generated entirely using Copilot, right? And again, this is not the general Copilot that uses, you know, Cloud or Gemini or whatever large language model we want to work with. We're also providing those models the toolkit to understand how widgets are developed, to understand what are widget designers, what are custom fields, right? What are the related content types that we're adding, and so on and so forth, so that it builds widgets in the correct and proper way. So this is kind of the idea, right? Obviously, we're not going to give a prompt to Copilot, migrate all of my widgets, and it's going to go ahead and do that and analyze and do everything. But it massively speeds up this process when it comes to doing this component by component.
Looks nice. I wish there were, actually there is, and we'll talk about it briefly, a similar experience for marketers, because building widgets with the MCP server is not something that I would touch, but I would love to be able to build entire complete pages. And one of the benefits I love, and I've been, smiling and enjoying the presentation, is the fact that things like, we'll cover it briefly later, things like section presets is something that can speed my work so much more rather than waiting or recreating complex layouts manually. What else are you showing me today?
Right. One thing to mention on the section presets, right, as a benefit is they can be shared cross-site, right? So if my team goes in into the main site that we start migrating and they build out a bunch of presets for landing pages, for forms, for specific content that we want to display in a specific form, specifically formatted way, we can just share them, use them in the next site that we're migrating, and just update the branding and the images. We saw how easy it is with a few clicks and so on and so forth, right? So very, very helpful in that regard. Now, for the next few examples, we do actually want to switch over to sort of the end experience, right? Where we've done the work, we're on cloud, we're on the new modern front-end technology. What does that look like? Now, in this scenario, um, we are going to switch context a little bit, right? From the plain website that was food related and restaurants and whatnot, right? We are going to go into a fully fleshed out, modern looking website that we've built on cloud using ASP.NET Core as our preferred front end rendering technology. Now, the very first thing that we want to focus on here is all of the AI powered capabilities that we are going to get just by migrating to the cloud. And something that is very important to know is that these AI powered capabilities are built into Sitefinity, right? It's not something that where you need to connect to the large language model specifically. You need to configure all of your prompting and your data grounding and everything that we're doing to make sure that it doesn't hallucinate and all of that, right? This is AI that's baked into Sitefinity, works off of your content, works off of your business context, and is trusted and reliable in that sense. So when we're looking at this website, right, typically if we wanted to find some information, right, we have our different searches here that we can use. But people are more and more used to conversational interfaces, and that's why we actually do have this built-in AI assistant here called Quanti that we've built out specifically for our bank. And Quanti is fully trained on everything that the bank offers as products and services, right? I can ask it what services does the bank offer, and it's going to give me an answer that's relevant and an answer that's backed by sources as well. So we're going to see the answer, right? There are a variety of services tailored for both personal and business banking, smart saving tools, 24/7 digital access, and so on and so forth. And it actually gives me the resources that provide that information, right? The personal business, the personal products, the business products, the new home loan program that was launched, and so on and so forth. So I can keep going, right? I can say, well, I'm looking for personal banking, right? What are the personal banking services? And now it's going to dig even deeper into the personal page where there's a list of specific products with specific terms and so on and so forth. And it's going to give me the entire list, right? Personal checking, personal savings, competitive loan options, credit cards, home loan program that we saw as a news article as well. And we're going to get those sources again. Now, I see Alex wants to chime in.
How long does it take to set up this chatbot or this interface? Because I think this is important here.
Right. And this is exactly what I want to move on to. This
Okay.
entire functionality is going to come pre-configured in Sitefinity. So when we're in the cloud, we unlock the AI assistance option. And if I wanted to create a new assistant, or let's say modify the existing one that I have here, right? All I need to do is give it a description, an instruction, and a greeting message. That's it. All of the other functionality, the training, the grounding in our own content, right? This is provisioned by us, managed in the cloud. It's transparent. We don't need to take any further steps to make this work. That's all I need to do. And if I wanted to place it on a page, right, this goes back to the modern front end, right, where we have these capabilities, we have these different um, widgets that we can add that are customizable and flexible, right? If I go into my root page template here for the banking side, right, I have the AI assistant right here. And it's a widget that exists in Sitefinity. It's available out of the box. You don't need to do any development, and it's fully customizable. We get to choose what
Good.
assistant we.
Yeah, two important things I think we need to mention here. One is that it works only with published content, meaning that your sensitive drafts or some internal content that is not supposed to be indexed will not be indexed. So only published content and publicly available um, content on your website will be indexed, will be taken in consideration, which is a good thing, especially in some regulated industries. So whenever you're not ready to share some information with the general public. And number two is it's only available to Sitefinity Cloud customers. It's currently not available on-prem or when you host your Sitefinity instance in the cloud, but through a partner. So we have a couple of those customers that are in the cloud, but not on Sitefinity Cloud. So this is a Sitefinity Cloud exclusive capability that works out of the box if you're on Sitefinity Cloud. It's good to know that.
Right, and this is quite important to mention, Alex. You are correct. This is the whole point, right? That this is something that's baked in, and it works, and you don't need to deal with configuration and everything like that. So in order for this to work, this has to be hosted in Sitefinity Cloud, so that us, Progress as a vendor, we do all the management and we make sure that it's updated and reliable and so on and so forth. So we take care of all of that. Um, Going back to some of the customization options here, right? Obviously, we can give it an avatar so that it's branded. We can create the chat bubble icons here that we wanted to do. Uh, and again, we can give it a greeting message. We can give it a different name. So mine is called Quanti after my quantum bank and so on and so forth. So again, fully customizable, brandable, available out of the box that works with your content. Again, publicly available content.
I mean, this goes back to the example that I had about, looking at the cancellation policy for an airline ticket. Probably a chat like this that knows the content on the airline website, or it could be a banking website, could be any website, could provide me directions and most importantly citations where to look for and how to and to summarize the information that I'm looking for, saving me time. And from the other end of the the fans, it's a good way to keep audience engaged, and I think that is a KPI that we as marketers are always interested in. All right, good, like it.
Yep.
What's next?
Awesome. So there is one final thing that we want to touch upon for today, and this is again going back a little bit more to the practitioner experience, where something that happens, I believe, to everyone. I know it's happened to me almost on a daily basis whenever I play around my little proof of concepts and my tests and whatnot. Right? I have a bunch of images that I manage in Sitefinity. Now, I am very diligent. My images are quite well organized. You can see I have my locations, my news and blogs, my people, my testimonials, my products and services, right? I try to keep my image hygiene at a very high level. But I still know that there was a specific banner with a happy person on it, and I just can't for the life of me remember whether it was under people, whether it was under locations or whatever. So I also don't know what this was called, right? So what we've introduced is cognitive image search, which actually works off of the images themselves. And if I look for happy people, right, I'm going to get everything that matches that criteria, right? I have this little corporate group of people here. I have this girl who looks quite happy and is smiling, but this is the banner that I'm looking for, right? This little person here with his arms up in the air is very happy, and this is the only way that I could have described it off of my memory, but I was still able to find it. Now, obviously, we also have the traditional search baked in here, right? So if I search for a car, for example, I am going to get things like the car loan image, but I am also going to get things like Hero 2000, right? Nothing in the metadata here tells me that this is an actual image for a car, but we know that there's a car in the background here of the person. Uh, so the cognitive search is able to understand that. This is the same with this one, right? This is just a random ID. Nothing here tells me that there's a car, but we have the little truck here. So the cognitive search understands that there's cars in this image. So again, when we talk about again the process of migrating, right? Maybe we don't have the time to sanitize all of our content and evaluate what works and reorganize and so on and so forth. Maybe we have to migrate this in bulk. Well, because we're migrating, we have easier access to it afterwards when it comes to image searching. So yeah, I think that was pretty much it on the
Uh,
practical side of things.
well, it's a huge productivity booster. Let me tell you why. Because when you're working in a bigger team, not everyone is as diligent as Pavel to organize things in libraries and give the proper file name. So you end up with a bunch of names like final version 3 of the final copy of the copy. And it can make things a bit harder for the practitioner, losing a lot of time, just wasting a lot of time. And I think that this is something that I've always enjoyed. This and I find it as already as a huge productivity boosters. That's great. That's great for the practitioner experience. But there's certain non-negotiables. Let me grab the script again, screen again, and we'll talk about briefly about a couple of things that, regardless of whether you will be using AI, whether you will be modernizing your front end, there are a couple of things that you need to make sure that you're up to date with: compliance, security, risk management, high availability, disaster recovery, governance audit, optimized performance and innovation. And there's a reason why, and we're going to talk about the success story just in a couple of minutes, where one of our customers were having trouble, well, not necessarily trouble, but under load, their website wouldn't perform as they expected. So moving to the cloud, and it's again through a partner, not necessarily to Sitefinity Cloud, helped improve the availability. For many of you, it could be compliance, especially if you're in banking, if you're in regulated industries, or you have requirements for data residency. That's a really important consideration. And if even if you have the resources to manage everything in-house, to host everything in-house, the question is at what cost, meaning do you have enough skill, talent, available talent, and can they go on vacation, knowing that everything will keep up and running. Like me, I'm going on vacation next week, and I know that everything will be there. So there are no negotiables, regardless whether you are in BFSI, whether you are in associations, manufacturing, B2B, B2C. There are things that you shouldn't skip, and I think that looking at your existing setup, technology, your hosting, your deployment, your everything, the way you've set up your DX is actually an opportunity to check those and to ensure that you've got those covered. But again, migration does require a bit of planning, I would say, and it comes with a bit of potentially legacy. Think about migrating a banking website, even that there's no online banking tied to just the marketing side of a banking website or a credit union or a mortgage organization and brand. There will be a number of things that you may have available on the on-prem, heavily customized Sitefinity that is running on 40.4 or 30.3 or perhaps an older version. And this is a question from a marketing perspective, from a business owner. What happens, Pavel, with my front-end widgets, the one that I have currently on my website? What happens with my rate tables and disclosures? What happens with all those additional capabilities that I currently have for end customers? And how do I move them forward without carrying the brittle code that may be existing and may have piled over time with each iteration of the website? Help me here.
Yeah, this is a great question, and again, this is the answer lies more on the technology migration, right? So when we are migrating from the MVC architecture to the new decoupled architecture, the front end projects themselves, they are much more lightweight, much more easier to develop for. They're focused purely on the front end, so they provide additional functionalities to help you create and manage those widgets better. And again, with the tooling that we saw, right? Okay, are there existing out of the box widgets that can help us for something like, our standard news widget that we have or components? Um, can we just run a migration command and migrate from one widget to another, right? We give you the tooling with the new architecture to migrate those a little bit easier. But even if I did have to redevelop my branch in ATM locator where it now pulls in data real life from a different system, then it embeds Google Maps and all of that, right? The MCP tool that we just took a look at, right, is going to be a huge time saver and productivity saver, but also something that, you know, you can ask it for best practices, right? It has the understanding of a Sitefinity structure. You can ask it how to structure this better, how to add a new property, and so on and so forth. So it's not just, again, creating the widget from scratch. It's also improving your productivity as you're developing or redeveloping those going forward.
And I think that there's similar patterns across industries, and we're giving an example in the BFSI. But if we have a look at higher education, for example, you see that there's certain patterns, integrations, front-end widgets, capabilities, functionalities that are designed to capture attention, to convert customers, to deliver certain types of content. How about in this particular case, because we didn't cover it on the previous slide where we saw the CRM integration? How about, for example, things like events and calendars in the higher education? And probably events and calendars is something that we'll see on the next slide. But how do I integrate my existing websites with, say, a third-party platform that will handle all my integrations, all my events, or maybe I can do it internally? Is there an option to do this if I go to, say, Sitefinity Cloud?
Right. And yep, a very good point here, Alex, is that, there is overlap with use cases. All of the use cases that we've listed here are something that we've solved. We just want to highlight a few of the important ones. And in this case, right, events and calendars, integrating data, making sure that it's consistent across multiple systems, whether it's our program and course catalogs, whether it's our faculty listings, or again, the events themselves, right? We need to have a way to synchronize that data. And by moving to the cloud, we also gain access to the low code slash no code solution that we've implemented for building out these integrations, right? Whereas previously, if I wanted to sync something like an Eventbrite where I manage all of my events with my Sitefinity calendar, I would have to, go to a developer who would write a bunch of API calls, some middleware in between. Then one day it breaks and I have to contact that developer again, and so on and so forth, right? With the low code and no code tool, we put these uh, integrations in the hand of the practitioners where they have a visual interface that helps with that. They have ready-made connectivity to uh, thousands of MarTech applications out there, and it makes the process of building out those integrations and maintaining them and keeping them consistent much easier, and makes this a much lesser problem to solve when we talk about migrations, because we can replicate something that was done in code with what we call a recipe that would be 5, 10 simple steps that can be modified through a user interface.
I think we've covered this in a previous webinar, but this is exactly the use case we had internally a couple of days ago when we were looking at the data silo and we thought, how can we easily move these data points, those contacts, to a centralized system that we can get a better visibility? And we said, well, let's use the integration hub. A same story basically with associations, membership management, where if, for example, you manage it internally through a custom content module, or you want to integrate it with a third-party website, there's definitely patterns. That means that why we get those examples, it's obvious, because moving to the cloud, for example, you may think that you are limited. Essentially, you are not limited. And actually, those capabilities like the integration hub that we spoke about, and I think we demoed it in another webinar on AI a couple of months ago, and we're going to demo it in an upcoming webinar very soon on SEO and LLM optimization. Comes to say that actually you have more tools to get more done in less time without writing a lot of code, without creating or introducing integrations and customizations that are subject to heavy maintenance. So yes, patterns, whether there's front-end customization and extensibility, whether it's connectivity, whether it's more tools to manage content and to be more efficient when it comes to content creation, without changing the workflows for the users that are already familiar with the backend. And I think that these are many of the benefits of upgrading and potentially considering moving to the cloud. By the way, cloud is easy to get through the Microsoft partnership program, so it's even easier for you to get to the cloud. But the bigger question, and I think that we covered it earlier, comparing different options, is how to pick the right one. And I think that Pavel mentioned about getting your existing CMS and moving it right to the cloud. If this is something that you want to optimize, reduce the infrastructure management hurdles and really focusing on keeping the website up and running without necessarily being ready to heavily invest into expanding or modernizing or introducing new features. Lift and shift is a great way to do it. It provides enormous speed to value because you instantly get things like redundancy, like uptime, like scalability, until you're ready to move on to looking into things like, say, better connectivity, a bit of AI, better project management in terms of product delivery, or project delivery in terms of, say, AI supported workflows or CI/CD and this kind of stuff. So lift and shift is doable. Many of our customers have already done it. Take existing websites, move it over to Sitefinity Cloud, and go on vacation and enjoy some time. Replatforming is something as well that you may want to consider. The way I think about it is you're already on a recent version that is supporting the cloud. You've probably have modernized your backend already, or you've built or you built your new website on one of the renderers. Moving into the cloud will unlock quite a few capabilities like the ones we mentioned, like Sitefinity AI Assistant, the image search, the packaged AI services like content creation, automatic taggings, as well as things like proactive maintenance. So these are cloud-specific capabilities that you will unlock. There's long-term benefits into this, slightly bigger investment perhaps, and might see it. This could be a project that takes a bit more time, but it's still the value is there. The third way to do it, I think, is the hybrid approach, and Pavel did mention it, where you do it incrementally, one page at a time, one connectivity, one connector at a time, kind of a no rush, easy migration over the course of, say, 6 months, 9 months, as long as you have resources and talent and some, some bandwidth to do it internally. This is a good way to modernize because, yes, there will be an investment, but the time, in terms of time investment, will be spread across 9 months, 6 months, whatever your priority is. The long benefit is unquestionable. The complexity, well, it really depends. On some of the integrations may require a bit of tinkering or a bit of planning. But with the migration tool, with the project analyzers, with the connectivity built in, actually you get access to more capabilities to help you simplify what is already or what would normally be a fairly complex project. This is what the next success story will briefly touch on. The customer adopted and they saw huge benefit there, and they obviously refactor. This is the toughest one. It's essentially rebuilding your entire website from scratch. It's a great way to modernize things. It's a great way to rethink the entire architecture. It's a great way to introduce capabilities that your teams will be using in the next 5, 7 years perhaps. But it requires a bit of planning, perhaps some support, and it's a great way for launching brand new projects that that you have that you wanted to do but never had, the opportunity, or you were not ready to accomplish. Speaking about the hybrid approach, US Swimming, they did it with a partner. They didn't move to Sitefinity Cloud, let's be honest, but they did move to Azure Cloud. Still getting a lot of benefits, many benefits like improved security and scalability. And their biggest challenge was, how do we keep our website up and running when there's a huge spike in traffic? And after the revamp, after migrating, after modernizing it, and I think that they migrated it over the course of several months, focusing on the critical parts of the website, the end result was our website didn't even flinch during the 2024 trial. So for them, keeping their website up and running, keeping their members happy, keeping up, providing access to the vital information, solved their business challenges through an upgrade and a gradual migration to new technology. Again, evaluating where to start and what's important for you will require to have open conversations with quite a few team members across the company. But if you're seeing things like shifting visitor trends, meaning organic traffic is going potentially down, or you're seeing shifting usage to mobile, less desktop, or the other way around, you will want to consider reevaluating how you're managing your content, how you're distributing your content, how your SEO works, and how your DX is presented on different screens. And then things like low engagement, the access to analytics, but no access to actionable insights. And then whether you are able to incorporate AI right into the workflows versus switching between different systems and switching context. SEO will cover in a dedicated webinar because there's so much to cover there, and it's just amazing topic that we'll be diving in a couple of weeks. So talk to the marketers whether the need is there to upgrade, migrate, and improve and modernize the experience itself. The number two is, again, your readiness. We covered it from a technology point of view, whether you are on a specific version, whether you are using specific technology. But the truth is that there are a number of things that you can improve, whether it's you start using headless So you are not duplicating editing efforts, or you are repurposing the same content for multiple purposes, or improving the connectivity and integrations with third-party systems. And I'm not talking the CRM. We saw the CRM and loans originating systems, or whatever the proprietary software you might be using. I'm talking about commonly used platforms like Asana, like Jira, like Trello, like ServiceNow, that can improve uh, help you increase the pace and the efficiency of how you work internally, but also hook your DX right into the backend systems that will help you address customer questions or support requests much more efficiently. So instead of writing those connectors manually, this is doable. Yes, many of our customers have done it, but instead of doing it manually, why not give the integration hub a try? If I can do it, and I've created quite a few recipes already while trying this integration hub, actually anyone can do it, and it's awesome. AI-driven project development, you saw it already. Now, even our internal folks don't have the excuse not to develop a widget for myself in like for me in like a day versus a week. I know that we are running out of time, so we wrap up with a couple of slides. Who owns the ongoing burden? And I think that this is the most important one. You can design a system that works perfectly, just like Sitefinity Cloud, with all the production, authoring, different staging environments, all the systems that work seamlessly and to deliver the results that you're interested. The question is, do you have the capacity? Do you have the time, the effort, the budget, the talent? Maybe you want to consider another approach to work with a partner who has already done the track, meaning they have experience launching Sitefinity and keeping Sitefinity in the cloud, or going the Sitefinity Cloud route where you also unlock multiple capabilities. Multiple reasons, things like the agentic AI page builder that is coming. You'll be able to join the early access program starting next week. So if you are into building, you want to try how you can build production ready or conversion ready pages using simple prompts like this. Look on our website. We'll be launching the page, I think, on Friday, and it will be available early next week. Sign up, and our PM team will be in touch to just to showcase you these exciting new capabilities that is coming later. Section presets, we saw it. Gen AI is something that we've already discussed in previous webinar. Gen AI, AI content tagging, AI-driven image search. These are such productive boosters for folks like me. We saw this in action, the conversational AI, the Sitefinity AI assistant. We saw it in action, how easy it is to set up. And these are, again, capabilities that help me improve the engagement. If you're not using shortcuts or you haven't customized the backend, maybe you need to look into it, because I've found for myself that when I start using shortcuts, my productivity boosts like 100%. SEO in 2025, a quick slide. A lot of things are changing, and you will see that the Google interface has changed, meaning that you are essentially getting fewer clicks. ChatGPT, Perplexity, a lot of things are happening there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are getting traffic. So how to fix it, how to prepare it for this new reality? Watch out for an invitation about upcoming webinar, because this is a topic we want to explore. It involves changing or improving your CMS setup and using a bit of automation perhaps to repurpose existing content for multiple purposes, and it's going to be awesome. And this is something that I'm looking really forward to diving into, because this is one of the things that you need to address. What's ahead? 15.4 is coming in a couple of weeks, actually, end of October, early November, and then it will be supported until 2030. So plenty of reasons to upgrade to this LTS version that is coming your way. What if we don't do anything? Well, there's nothing wrong. I mean, as I mentioned, I can happily work off a version 11 on Sitefinity, but frustration at some point will grow, both internally and externally. And chances are that with these changes that are happening, how people are interacted and how they are discovering your brand, um, well, your website might get lost a bit and may not get the deserved visibility on search engines and LLM. So this is something you want to address. Revenue leakage over time, brand searches are down, meaning that you need to be aware of this. You need to have a plan for addressing these potential risks and higher long-term costs associated with catching up with the others. It's not necessarily just about upgrades. It's about creating the DX that will continue to attract customers and keep them engaged and obviously help you with retention. So there's plenty of reasons to migrate. Let us know if we can help you. Let us know if you need any support through our partners or directly through us. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions and to help you upgrade and get the best out of Sitefinity because it's an awesome CMS. I love it, and I want to be in a position where I can talk to you and share your success stories. So please, let's create some awesome experiences and share some great success stories. Have a good one, and have a nice day.